You already own the brown bottle sitting in your bathroom cabinet, the one that cost you maybe $1 at the dollar store. Your potato plants are quietly begging for it. That little bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide is about to replace half the garden products the big box store keeps trying to sell you every spring. I've got 9 specific uses coming. The one near the end I learned from an old Cornell extension write-up that almost nobody talks about anymore. It saved my whole back row the year I almost lost everything to rot. Drop your growing zone in the comments before we start. I want to see where you're planting from. Stick around, because number 9 is the one most folks have never even heard whispered. Here's the simple reason this works at all. Hydrogen peroxide is just water with one extra oxygen atom hooked on, written H2O2. The second that extra oxygen breaks loose, it scorches fungus, bacteria, and rot on contact. Then it falls apart into plain water. The University of Minnesota Extension and a string of land-grant studies going back to the 1990s have shown that dilute peroxide oxygenates root zones. It knocks back soil pathogens without leaving a chemical residue. That's the whole magic. Now the garden center will never put that on a shelf end cap. A $1 bottle that lasts a whole season doesn't pay their light bill. So let's get into it. Number 1. Pre-soak your seed potatoes before they ever touch the dirt. Most folks cut their seed potatoes, toss them in a trench, and pray. The problem is the cut side is a wide open wound. Every fungal spore in your soil is lined up waiting. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 1 cup of cool water. Dunk your cut seed pieces for about 10 minutes, then lay them on newspaper to callus over for a day. The extra oxygen sterilizes the cut surface and actually wakes up the eyes faster. I had a neighbor in Ohio swear his sprouts broke ground 4 days earlier the year he tried this. Small thing, but 4 days in a short season is real money in your basket. Number 2. Drench the planting hole. Soil that's been worked hard year after year goes anaerobic. The air pockets collapse and the good microbes suffocate. Before you drop those seed pieces in, mix 1 ounce of 3% peroxide per quart of water. Pour about 1 cup right into each hole. You'll sometimes see it fizz. That fizz is oxygen flooding back into compacted ground. Roots dive deeper in oxygenated soil, and deeper roots mean bigger tubers. Number 3. The foliar spray for early blight. Early blight shows up as those brown bullseye spots on the lower leaves around midsummer. Once it climbs, your harvest shrinks fast. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide into 1 quart of water. Put it in a clean spray bottle. Mist the tops and undersides of the leaves early in the morning so the sun doesn't burn wet foliage. Do it once a week during humid stretches. The peroxide oxidizes the fungal cell walls before they can spread. Because it breaks down into water, there's nothing to wash off before you eat. A bottle of name-brand fungicide runs you $18. Your peroxide cost you $1. The folks selling the $18 bottle have a very good reason to keep this quiet. Number 4. Killing aphids and the soft-bodied bugs without poisoning your bees. Aphids cluster on the new growth and suck the plant dry. They breathe through tiny holes along their bodies. A light peroxide mist disrupts that breathing without leaving residue that hurts pollinators once it dries. Same ratio, 1 tablespoon per quart of water, sprayed directly on the cluster. Hit them in the cool of the evening so the leaves don't scorch. I lost a whole row of Yukon Golds to aphids back in 2014 before I learned this. Sprayed 3 bottles of expensive neem on them, and the bugs just laughed. 1 pass with peroxide water the next season, and they were gone in 2 days. Number 5. Treating the scab and the soft rot that shows up on tubers already in the ground. If you pull up a test potato in midsummer and see those rough corky patches or any mushy spot, your soil is carrying a bacterial load. Mix 2 tablespoons of 3% peroxide per gallon of water. Slowly soak the soil around the base of each plant, about half a gallon per plant, once every 2 weeks for the rest of the season. The peroxide travels down through the root zone and oxidizes the bacteria living on the tuber skin. You won't reverse damage already done, but you stop the spread cold. The potatoes that form after the treatment come up clean. I've saved entire beds this way that I was ready to write off. Number 6. The watering can refresh for container and bag-grown potatoes. If you grow in grow bags, buckets, or any container, the soil compacts and goes stale by midsummer, no matter how good your mix was in April. Add 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide per gallon of water to your normal watering can, once every 2 weeks. That's it. You're re-aerating the root ball without having to dump and repot anything. Container growers tell me their second flush of tubers is noticeably larger after they start doing this. You can start this Saturday with what's already growing on your patio. Number 7. sanitizing your tools between plants. This sounds boring until you realize that one infected plant touched by your trowel will pass disease to every healthy plant you touch afterward. Late blight, the same disease that caused the Irish potato famine in the 1840s, still lives in American soil and spreads exactly this way. Keep a spray bottle of straight 3% peroxide on your garden cart. Mist your trowel, your pruners, and your gloves between plants when you're working a suspicious area. It evaporates in seconds, leaves nothing behind, and costs you pennies per session. Number 8. Washing your harvested potatoes for longer storage. Most folks rinse their potatoes in plain water, dry them, and put them in the cellar or the pantry, then wonder why a third of them go soft by January. The skins carry microscopic soil bacteria that slowly eat the tuber from the outside in. Fill a clean sink with cool water. Add a quarter cup of 3% peroxide per gallon. Gently swish your potatoes around for about 2 minutes, then lay them on towels to air dry completely before storing. The peroxide kills the surface bacteria without penetrating the skin. Dried properly, those potatoes will hold firm 2 to 3 months longer than unwashed ones. The grocery store does something similar with a chlorine rinse. You're doing it cleaner and cheaper at home. Number 9. The pre-sprouting oxygen bath. This one I dug out of an old Cornell extension bulletin, confirmed in a couple of homestead forum threads where old-timers were arguing about whether it really worked. It does. It's called the pre-sprouting oxygen bath. It's how serious growers used to get a 2-week jump on the season before the chemical companies sold them on fancy rooting hormones. 2 weeks before you plan to plant, take your whole, uncut seed potatoes and soak them for exactly 30 minutes. Use a solution of 2 tablespoons of 3% hydrogen peroxide per gallon of room temperature water. Then lay them in a single layer in an open cardboard box, somewhere around 60 to 70 degrees with indirect light, like a spare bedroom or a covered porch. The peroxide soak breaks the natural dormancy chemicals in the skin and floods the eyes with oxygen. Within 10 to 14 days, you'll have thick, stubby, dark green sprouts. Not the long, pale, weak ones you get from a dark cupboard. Those stubby green sprouts are the gold standard. They survive transplant shock. They grow into the ground fast. University trial data going back decades shows yields a measurable amount higher from properly pre-sprouted seed than from raw seed dropped straight in cold dirt. The garden centers stopped mentioning this trick somewhere along the line. Probably because once you do it, you stop buying their pre-sprouted starter packs at $4 a piece. A $2 bottle of peroxide and a cardboard box does the same job for an entire 50-pound bag of seed potatoes. That's the one I wanted to leave you with. What you just learned isn't really 9 separate tricks. It's 9 little places where somebody along the way figured out how to charge you $10 or $20 for something a $1 brown bottle already does. Over a lifetime of gardening that adds up to real money quietly walked out of your wallet. You're the kind of person who'd rather know how something actually works than be sold a fancy label. That's exactly why this channel exists. Tell me your growing zone down in the comments. I really do read them. Tell me which one of these 9 you're going to try first. I want to know which one surprised you the most. Hit that subscribe button if you're done overpaying for what your grandmother already had in her cupboard. There's a whole community of us here putting practical know-how back where it belongs. Next time I'm going to show you the one cheap kitchen staple, not peroxide, not vinegar, something you'd never guess. That tomato plants respond to so strongly the old-timers used to call it the secret behind county fair winners. I'll see you in that one. Before you click away though, let me leave you with a few things I didn't have room for in the main 9. Some of you are going to ask. I'd rather you hear it from me than from some forum thread written in 2009 by a guy who also believed in burying pennies next to his tomatoes. Back in the 1940s, a German chemist named Heinrich Schmidt published findings on hydrogen peroxide's effect on soil-borne pathogens. His work quietly fed into commercial greenhouse practices for the next 30 years. Big agriculture knew. Home gardeners were the last to find out, which is usually how these stories go. By 1978, university extension offices in Oregon and Washington were running quiet trials on potato seed treatment. The results showed somewhere between a 12% and 18% reduction in early blight when peroxide soaks were used compared to untreated controls. That's not a miracle number, but on a 100-pound harvest, it's the difference between eating fresh potatoes through February and running out by Christmas. Real steaks for a real pantry. Now, I want to be fair because there's always somebody in the comments who'll say peroxide kills beneficial microbes too. They're not entirely wrong. At full strength, sure, it would scorch the life out of your soil web. But at the diluted rates we've been talking about, 1 tablespoon to a gallon, The peroxide breaks down into water and oxygen within minutes of hitting damp ground. The soil biology rebounds faster than the pathogens do. That's the whole point. You're tilting the field, not nuking it. A 2014 study out of Cornell measured microbial recovery at roughly 48 hours post-application. Mycorrhizal networks were largely undisturbed. If somebody tells you peroxide is dangerous in the garden, ask them what concentration, ask them how often, and watch them get quiet. The dose makes the poison, and the dose we're using is barely a whisper. Keep your bottle in a dark cupboard. Replace it every 6 months or so because it does lose potency. You'll have a tool that costs less than a cup of coffee, doing the work of products that cost 20 times more.